Hi, today we are going to discuss a code operations using ASP.NET MVC. So we already know the acronym of the code like create, update, retrieve, and delete. So in order to perform this application, uh, we have to choose MVC template. So my MVC template should be either empty or it should be internet or anything. So internet also we can choose any of the templates. So first I would like to mention steps to work with ASP.NET MVC. So first step, go to Visual Studio, click on File, click on New, Project, File, New, Project. Here in Web section, so choose Web as a category from the installed templates. So left side pane, we will call it as an installed templates. So this is nothing but left side pane. So we will call this as an installed templates. Click on. You have to choose ASP.NET MVC4 because which is the latest. ASP.NET MVC4. In market, MVC6 also available. Application. Give the name as MVC CURD exe and click on OK. So I'll give a name as MVC CURD exe. So and then other is I'll use internet application. See, we'll discuss yesterday, right? Razor engine, ASPX engine, right? So you didn't get a chance to know where Razor engine is there, how View engine is going to be processed. Here, this is the Razor engine. By defaultly, Microsoft supports a Razor engine, which is a default engine because it processes a lighter weight. It makes our processing in a lighter weight mode. That's the reason, and syntactical was not too complex. That's the reason Microsoft supported Razor engine. If you want to unit test cases for your project, just check this one. So as of now, we are not at all dealing any unit test projects. That's the reason I don't want to check this checkbox and just click on OK. So it has been, it will take a few moments to load. So as usually, we will aware that app start. Here we have a routing things will be there. Content we have a CSS things will be there. Controllers or controller will there. Filter or filtering part will be there. Images folder for providing an images, and models will be there. So and the scripts for JavaScript, jQuery scripts are available here. Scripts, and then for views, we have a views will be available here in this section. Now what I want to do is, so I will create a model. So first of all, we'll see code operations normally without entity framework. So we'll see code operations with the help of inline queries, which we are going to deal with normal ASP.NET. So in next session we'll see how to work with an entity framework. Working with entity framework is easy, which is a very easiest process when compared to our current process. So we'll see both the processes. So few companies suggest us to go with entity framework. Few suggest us to go with our normal, normal connection oriented approaches. So it is up to the discretion of the company. So in this case, in this sessions, I would like to provide you the information in both the ways. Okay, you can choose whatever the way as per your requirement. Now next step is I would like to create a model class model class whose name I would like to provide it as a whose name is student model. Just I'd like to give it as a student model. So now, so right click on your model, add student model. So right click on this and click on student model. I'll just click on add. So this class contains few properties. I would like to consider a few properties. Here I would like to introduce a few annotations for you. So annotations is nothing but a kind of a validations. So generally in ASP.NET we saw, so in order to raise an validation request, we would like to depend on a control, right? Validation controls we have: required field validator, regular expression validator, range validator. Likewise, we have a custom like we have few validators, right? Here, in order to provide an validations, we no need to depend on the validators. We just make use of an annotations. So here I would like to consider four or five fields, like ID of a student, and name of the student, and then address of the student. Likewise, I would like to consider a few things. So for this I'm considering. So in order to generate a property, we have a shortcut key. Just type PROP. See, and then you will click a 2 times tab button. Then your auto generated property will be available for you. So now you can change your property name, EMP ID, as well as PROP. So you can change, this is name. So that's the reason where I'm changing my data type, name, string, qualification, qualification, address. So generally we are providing EMP ID. In the form, if you want to display this as a different name, then we have one attribute. We'll use a display as a attribute. So by using display attribute, these attributes are available in one of the namespace. That namespace is called using system.component.model.data annotations. We'll call it as a data annotation. So here at property level it will be on EMP ID, but at the time of display level it should be shows as whatever the name that we provided. That name will be available for us. Name equal to, just I'm going to provide it as an ID. So EMP ID will be displayed as ID in the form itself. Next, for name. So this is a normal. For name, I would like to take. So I want to make this a mandatory field. In order to make this a mandatory field, we would like to use a required as a data annotation. error message equal to, so name is mandatory. So like that we can provide. So here qualification, please enter qualification. It is mandatory. Likewise, I designed my form. So I designed my model form. Once you end up with the design of your model form, now we have to build our solution. So anytime in MVC, if you are dealing with MVC, once after your form, once after your model preparation, you have to build your solution. Then only your model will be recognizable. Okay. Next obvious step is we have to create a controller. Now this we will create a scaffolding controller. So scaffolding controller means design will be automatically provided by our MVC template. So I would like to introduce this one. So now right click on the controllers, click on add. So here I would like to add a step. Once we done with model preparation, build the solution. So we have to build the solution. Next step, create a controller. Or controller. Step is right click on the controller, right click on the controller folder. So once you right click on this, it will ask for the type. So I will show you. So right add controller. So it will ask for the templates, MVC controller with read write actions. So using NT framework. So MVC controller with read write actions. Like this, few templates is there. We will call it as a scaffolding options. Okay. Here I would like to I would like to change the name of the controller. So first click on the controller folder, right click on the controller folder, click on add controller. So now name the controller as student controller. Name the controller as a student controller and choose the scaff scaffolding options. Scaffolding options. Currently, we are not at all dealing with entity framework. So that's the reason where I choose a template, scaffolding options template. Currently, I want to choose this one, MVC controller with empty read write action. Okay. So and other is API controller. API we are not at all dealing. Just consider MVC controller with empty read write actions. So we have to choose that one. So MVC controller read write actions. Controller read write actions. So click on this one. So I'm sorry, I didn't change it. Delete this one. I didn't change it. Name of the controller. Right click on this, add controller. This is a student, right? MVC controller with read write action. So this is the controller which we considered here. Okay. So now control part is also done. Model is done. Controller also done. So now we have to design our form. So in order to design our form, so basically by using a model, we know our form will be looks like this. So it has 1 2 3 4 5. So these are the five properties. First property and second property, third property and fourth property. So totally we have four properties. So we have to create a DB structure related to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm trying to navigate to the SQL server, create a respective DB entities related to this example. This example. Now what I'm trying to do is, so first of all I would like to create a table. So create table, table. So TBL, student MVC. Okay, for every table it is a good technique to pass identity, sorry, to pass primary key, because it is mandated to deal in the entity framework. Entity framework, we directly have a direct communication to the database without opening our Visual Studio, without you opening our management studio, SQL Server Management Studio. So if you pick, it raises it as a warning, because without primary key, because a standard DB structure requires a primary key. So that's the reason where I changed the structure here itself. So ID is required and other is name, and other is name. So I mentioned name as varchar of 100. So next qualification, next is address. TBL student MVC. I just want to create a table like this. My table got created. So I'll create procedures. So I want to handle this as a procedure pattern. I want to create this in for insertion, insert procedure, delete procedure, and update procedure. So in order to accomplish this thing, so I have to create a procedures for insert. For insert, so create procedure USP students add. So for adding of a student, we need a few things, right? So all these things we would like to provide here itself. I want to ID, I would like to make it as a primary key, so that identity key also, so that we don't have to pass that value oftenly. So what I will do is okay, let me go through like this, we'll see. So I want to pass name, qualification and address to my procedure. These are the parameters. So at the rate name, at the rate qualification, and at the rate address. So here we'll use as begin. And so next, insert insert into, so tbl underscore student MVC name comma qualification comma address. This is values at the rate name, at the rate qualification, at the rate address. This is the procedure for insert. Procedure for update. Okay, so procedure for update, we have to update a few things, right? So generally, in order to update, we have to update either city name, or we have to either name, or either we have to update a qualification based upon the ID. So for this, we have to pass four parameters because ID is most important. So here, sorry, I change it to update, and here ID, I'm writing a query for update. Update TBL student MVC set name equal to at the rate name, qualification equal to at the rate qualification, comma address equal to at the rate address, where ID equal to at the rate ID. Okay, this is another procedure for update. For delete, we'll use. So for delete, if we have an ID also, we can delete the data. So no need to pass all the things. So just I'm using only single parameter, that is ID as a parameter. So I'll use delete student where ID equal to ID. For this, I would like to drop my table. So that I can pass the data. This is drop. I want to mention it as a identity column so that it will be automatically taken care. Now execute this, create and execute this procedure, and execute this procedure. So I have it, totally already there. Okay, I have totally three procedures, one table, all are there. I will publish the same in my blog so that you can get this DB structure information. So once done this, so I would like to create one folder for database related things. So I will name that folder as, so DB entities. entities. Now create a folder related to DB entities. Related to DB entities. For this, right click on the project, click on add new folder, name it as DB entities. So now what I'm trying to do is go to this right click on this, add new folder, DB entities. This is my database entities. So right click on this, add one file, right click on this, add a class file. So I'll write the step here, right click on the DB entities folder and add new class, name it as emp repository, name it as student repository. This is student related now, student repository. So you can name this as a student repository. Now what you have to do is go to Visual Studio, right click on this, click on add, click on class. So name your class as repository, student repository. So now here you have to add the namespaces which are related to your database things. So for inserting we have to write a method, for deleting we have to write a method, right? For updating we have to write a method. Like this we have to provide our all methods, right? So we have to use our namespaces. So for dealing of database we have to use using system.data.sql client. Okay, so globally I want to consider an SQL connection, um, SQL connection, sorry, so not at the namespace level, at class level. So SQL connection con. So just I declared my SQL connection here. So once I declared my SQL connection, I want to initialize my SQL connection. In order to initialize my SQL connection, definitely I will provide SQL connection, all the things here itself, server equal to dot. So I'm dealing with Windows authentication, so that's the reason I would like to provide integrated security equal to true. If you are dealing with SQL Server authentication mode, then provide your username and password. So integrated security equal to true and database equal to, so I'm dealing with Feb 2018 as my database. Here you can see my database DB level. This is Feb 2018. That's the reason where I provided Feb 2018. So likewise I declared my connection object globally. Now what I'm trying to do is, so first of all I would like to write an implementation for inserting of the data. So if I want to insert the data, definitely I have to consider a few things, right? So what is the thing? I would like to declare a method public int insert student. So I would like to insert a student data. So in order to insert this one, So basically I would like to give a return 0 for time being. In order to insert the data, definitely we can make sure that our data will be inserted. So for this I would like to consider int rows affected equal to 0. So number of rows affected. So for this I would like to return this as a data. For this we require data, right? My data is available in the student model. So try to add this namespace for our student repository. So you can use. So now we will pass student model as an input for this. Okay, student model as an input for this method. So because everything is available in the student model, right? So I would like to name it as a student obj. Now we will write a code itself. So connection is available for us, so we will open a connection dot open. So once the connection is available, we will pass a command. So SQL command cmd equal to new SQL command. So for inserting of the data, so we have a stored procedure. Our stored procedure name is USP underscore students underscore add. Sorry. So this is our delete procedure, right? So I'll change it the name and click on delete. Okay. Hmm. So USP underscore students underscore add. So this is my SQL stored procedure. So for this procedure, we have to specify the command type. CMD dot command type equal to command type. So in order to provide a command type here, we have to include the namespace that is using system dot data. So we can include a namespace using system dot data. Command type dot, this is we are dealing with a stored procedure. That is the reason we have to mention it as a stored procedure. Next is command, we have to pass the parameters for this. So in order to pass the parameters to this, so we have to write cmd dot parameters dot add with value. Parameters dot add with value. So for this, so whenever we are going to add a value, so definitely we have to use the names, whatever the names that we used in the database. So at the rate name, comma, we have our student object, right? Student object dot, so name, like this we have to pass. So similarly, so other fields also we have to pass similarly. At the rate qualification, and one more thing is at the rate address. Address, qualification address. So here these are the parameters that I want to use. So cmd parameters dot add with value, and other is cmd parameters dot add with value of a qualification. So now whenever we are trying to pass this information, we have to execute our command, right? So in order to execute our command, so we have a method. So our method is cmd dot execute non-query. This is a method. So for this, it returns an integer type. So this type indicates that how many rows, number of rows affected by this query. So that's the reason where I considered one variable at top. So rows affected equal to cmd dot execute non-query. In this way, we will try to insert the data. Okay. So similarly, if you want to update a data, definitely we can use update student. as a method. So in order to update a data, definitely we have to pass few parameters to that procedure, right? So in order to get the parameters to that procedure, we'll just change the procedure name here simply. So our procedure name is student. So input is the same. So but here we have to pass a this many number of parameters. So here we have one extra parameter, that is ID. This is MPID. So the same thing. Number of rows affected by the query is same. Name is there, qualification is there, address is there. So now this is the way how we are updating the information. So we update the data. Next is delete. So in order to delete, we required only one parameter. That parameter is nothing but ID. So just we can pass that ID int emp id. Okay. So pass the query. So sorry, pass the stored procedure. Our stored procedure name is USP, this one, and here @id is there. So instead of id, we'll use emp id. So and remove the rest of the parameters. So in this way, we'll insert the data, we'll update the data, we'll delete the data. So this is for delete student. Now, if you want to fetch the data, so retrieve is also important for us, right? If you want to fetch the data, definitely you have to write a select query for this. So in order to fetch the data, I'm using so this one public list student model get all students. So close everywhere this connection object. And forget to close that one. Please close everywhere. So close here and close here. So I will consider one list object for student model. I name it as students student list equal to new student list, because we have to return the same at the end of this implementation. So for this, I would like to pass a command. So in order to fetch an employees, so I would like to, in order to fetch the students, I want to write a query, get all students, USP get all students. For this, parameters are not at all required, so we'll use select the star from order by ID DSC. So this is the procedure where we are going to use for fetching of all order by. You have to use order by. This is the procedure that we want to use. So my procedure name is get all students. So now open your connection and use your SQL command object cmd equal to new SQL command. So use our procedure name get all student and pass your connection object. So your connection object been passed here. So now you have to, so here we don't have any parameters to pass this procedure. Just execute our procedure by specifying the command type. So cmd dot command type equal to command type dot store procedure. So and then we'd like to take it will fetch us a multiple number of records, right? So that's the reason where I'm considering SQL data adapter. So new SQL data adapter pass your command. So these things we already aware, we already worked so far. So next, data table. So it returns the table information. Considering, I will consider the data table dt equal to new data table. So now when I execute this SQL data adapter, it will fetches the data and this data will be filled into this data row. So here da dot fill of dt. So once we'll fill this information, so for with this connection is not at all required for us because data is available in the data row. So I will close the connection. It is a good technique to close the connection when your database connection has been completed, because ideally when you open a more number of connections, the performance of your DB will be more. We have to increase the performance of your application. So as a best technique, you have to close your connection object whenever it suffices your requirement, then it will be available for the next object. So I would like to read my data rows and I would like to prepare my data, prepared my list object. So in order to do that, we have a data row object. In this data row, we will fetch the data table information dt dot rows we have. So for each, we have a for each loop. By using this for each loop, dt rows will be copied into the data row. By using this data row, we will read the data. So now we have our student list. So in this list, student list will pass add as a method. In this, we'll declare all our, will prepare our student list. So new student model. So here we have to pass our model. So first is, so id, right? So emp id. So whenever we are using an emp id, my data is copied to dr data row, so which is an integer. That's the reason where I'm using convert dot to int 32 of dr of id. So this is the region where I used a conversion technique. So if it is a string, so name equal to convert dot to string, so we can use dr of name. So this name should exactly matches with your database columns. So this is your column, right? If you want to know the definition of the column, we have a shortcut key. Just by clicking on the table, click on alt F1 so that you will get the definition. This is a column name. Okay, so whatever the name that we presented in the database, use the same names, otherwise you will end up with an error. So next is qualification. Similarly, convert dot to string of dr of double quotes, you can pass it. So this is your qualification. Next, name, not name, address, right? Address equal to convert dot to string of dr of address. In this way, I prepared my data object. So finally, you can return this student list, so that student list will be available for us. So in CURD, for create means insert we did, update we did, delete we did, and retrieve also we did. So in this way we prepared our student repository. So once we prepared the student repository, now it's the time to navigate to our controller. So just I will build this. So the moment you created .cs file, so ensure that your build process is always in success. So for this, I would like to navigate to the student controller. So when I navigate to my student controller, I would like to present my own methods. So here, I would like to create one method, public action result employees. So here, get all students. So here, you can provide the namespace of your models. So MVC code exe dot models. So you have a models namespace. Now here in this context, we want to create an object, right? So in order to create an object for our repository, student repository, I have to include that namespace also. Student repository is available in this namespace, MVC code exe dot db entities. So now this is my controller, db entities. Now we are going to create an object for our student repository. So student repository. So here I would like to create an object, student repo equal to new student repository. So here I would like to use model return view. So here student repo dot, we have a method, right? Get all students. So I'm passing whatever the resultant that is coming, I'm passing directly to that view. So similarly, I will make use of all the things, like for employee, for delete of employee and everything. So now we have to do a step-by-step process. So for adding of an employees and then viewing of employees and everything. So for this, I would like to decorate action results, then we will go with then view designing part. So next is I would like to add a insert method. So in order to insert, so definitely I would like to consider public one method, public action result. So here add student, normal method, return view, that's it. So, but student requires to insert the data. So, in order to insert the data, we have to use a post method. Here we don't have to insert any get all students. That's the reason we don't have any post method. So here we have a post method. This post method sends a parameter, that is a student model as a parameter. So I will declare this method as HTTP post, because for insertion of data we require a post method, and this method is going to be accepts a parameter. That parameter is nothing but a student model as a parameter. So here we'll check student model as a parameter. So here I have to use student obj. So in this, we would like to insert the data, right? So I want to make sure that try catch blocks are available, because if something goes wrong, it will catch us our information. So here I will check if all validations, we already provided data annotations, right? If we won't pass the data, then automatically data annotations will raises an error. So here we have one class model state. By using that, you will check model state is valid or not. So means if it is, all validations are successful, it returns a true. Otherwise, it returns a false. Here I'm checking this condition. Model state dot is valid. So if this information is valid, then I am trying to create an object for my student repo. So by using this object, so I would like to call my method. So my method name is, so int res equal to, my method name is student repo. So we have a method insert student. This insert student requires an object. So I would like to pass a student object. If my result is greater than 0, then automatically I will provide a message. So my message is, so I'll use a viewback dot message. So in this message, I will prompt a user that insertion is successful. So student details are added successfully. Viewback.message. Once this was successful, then automatically, so I'll return my view. Similarly, so in catch, this is not required. Catch also use view, return view. So my add student method will completed. Similarly, we can perform with the update information like edit. So as well as we'll do with the delete also. First, we'll start with update. Public action result, edit student. Here also, in order to edit, we required an ID, right? So place this repository. Return view. So we already saw about linked query, right? We already had some information about linked query. Student repo. So we are getting all students first. So on all students, we will filter whatever the ID that is required for us. So here we'll use where p dot emp id is there, right? Emp id equal to. So whatever the ID that we are passing, that information we are trying to pull the data ID. So dot first or default means whatever the record which is available in the first, that will be displayed. So we are fetching this information. So when a user clicks on edit, the particular record will be available for us. Whatever the record that we want to edit, that record will be available for us. So in order to make a post method of this edit, we required class object also. HTTP post. We require class object also. So our object is ID, and as well as another thing is student model. So here we can use a student obj. So for this method, so we would like to use try catch block. Try catch block. So in this try catch block, so first, as usually, we'll create an object for this student repository, and then we'll make use student report dot update. So update student. So here student object is enough for us. I'll pass a student object as a input parameter. So for this method, I pass a student object as an input parameter. Then, so once the data is updated, I want to make sure to return this one. Return redirect to action. Redirect to action. We have a method, right? So we have a list of students itself. So just go to this, copy this, get all students, so that we'll be navigating our particular action to this method. So if it will end up with any error, then we'll use a return view. In this way, we will edit our student information. So once we're done with edit, then the same thing is we'll apply for a delete also. So here in delete, we have to make sure to delete our information. So I would like to use delete. This is a delete student. Delete a student. So here ID is required. That's it. So we can make use of delete student. So instead of student object, we'll pass ID. Okay, so here I would like to take integer value int result. So if result is greater than 0, I will prompt a message. If result is greater than 0, prompt with a message. So view bag dot message message equal to data deleted successfully. Likewise, I'll use view bag, and then so I would like to, once after the delete, I would like to navigate to the all students information. If there is an error, then I will provide the error. So in this way we'll remove all other, defaultly generated methods. We'll remove all the defaultly generated action methods, because there is no use by placing all this information. So now our controller makes simpler. Just build your compiler. So always you should end up with a build succeeded message. Now my build got succeeded. Now this is the time to create a view. So in order to create a view, just right click on each and every, method, and we are trying to, add data. So whatever the data that we want to add, that will be available for us. So here I would like to use an add student. So right click on this and click on add view. So here it asks for then add student. Yes, I use add student here. Whatever, so this engine is Razor. So we can select a strongly typed view. Add student. You can select a strongly typed view, and your view will be available for us. So what is the name of our model? Just you can find the name of the model. Our model name is student model. Here you will find a scaffold template. In this scaffold template, you can choose a template called create. Create means for inserting of data, it will be available. If we click on this create, then automatically your form will be automatically designed by the MVC. No need to create your form. Okay, so this we would like to create as a partial view. So I created as a partial view. Just click on add. No, you can see all your model is available for us. Your model is available for us. We'll check. So I'm going to, execute this one for the sake of understanding. So my controller is student controller, right? So just I would like to add, I would like to call a add student. All will be available for you, right? Suppose if you click on add, so mandatory fields or prompts. So please enter qualification, please enter address, whatever the things that we provided at model level, all will be available. So this is your model, right? So here we provided this as a messages. So this actually this name is CMP but at display level it is coming as ID, because so in display level we provide it as a ID. So in this way we will, insert the data, we will update the data, we will create the data. So likewise, just nothing to design, just right click on each and every, view, and create whatever the view that apps for your requirement, and you can execute your form. Then automatically your form will be added. So next is, so get all students is there, no? Just I will create another, click on add view, get all students. This is also strongly typed because we already had a model. So here in scaffold template, choose a list, because we have multiple number of employees are there, right? Choose a list, whatever the list that you want. Create a, partial view. Just click on add. So automatically you'll have to display all your information. So students information, just I am running this one. So copy this one, Just I'm trying to execute this one. Student. What are the employees that are there that will be available for us? So far we didn't create any employees. If we click on create new, so we'll redirect to the maps itself. Automatically it will come. So this is our model, right? So get all student view is there. So action link is create new. Here we are using an action method. What is the action method? We used add student. Change that one to add student. Then automatically it will hit to that particular action method. Okay. Similarly, we have to create for delete, and as well as we have to create for update also, right? So for update also, just right click on this and you can make use of update. So whenever we are trying to use this update and edit, automatically it will redirects to the form. So in router config it will redirects to the form, and same thing will be available for us. So but this form is not at all required. We'll manage in a different way also. So I'll show you how to manage these things at a hyperlink level. So this is a student. So come down. So this is an edit student. Right click on this, add view, same procedure. So just you can check edit. Click on edit. So use the create partial view. Then editing will be done. Similarly, for delete also, just you can make use delete student. So click on add view. So select this as a delete and click on add. So in this way, we added our information. So now try to execute our form and let's insert the data. So this is a back to list option, right? So add student, we have an option called back to list. So go to this one. So it will hit it to that place. So I want to change this action to get all students. If we click on this back to list means we'll go to get all students action. So now okay. So I want to pass ID as one, name say for example Harsha MS. Just orders I click on create method. So we'll see whether the data is saved or not. Sorry, tbl tbl underscore student MVC Harsha is available for us. Click on back to list. So data is available. Okay. If we click on edit, so you have to change this action methods because we have something we provided a different names, right? So what is the name for the edit here? Just check. Edit student, not a single normal edit. So we have an edit student. So here in get all students, we have an action links here. So place this action links. So this is the name that we want to display. So this is our method. So edit student, and for delete, so go to the delete button, delete student. So use delete the student. If we click on edit, so here we are end up with an error. So the error is stating that if we click on edit button, we have to pass an ID information, right? So we have to pass ID information, but we are not at all passing an ID information. So in order to pass an ID information, we have to make sure to pass ID to our edit student, because go to your controller, just you can check. So edit student is expecting ID as an input, right? Delete student is also expecting ID as an input, but in your action method, when you are redirecting to your action method, nothing is there, right? So in order to pass a certain values, just you can uncomment this and pass a id value. So your id is resided in id dot item dot. So our model is copied to item, so item dot emp id. Similarly, use the same for delete also, because your action methods are expecting this information. So now execute this form. So student get all students, just click on edit, so your data is there. So I change it to masters, click on save. So automatically it navigated, and here our values will be changed. Okay. So suppose if you want to delete, so click on delete. So your data will be deleted. In this way, we work with CURD operations in ASP.NET MVC. Am I clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this video will be available, and I will provide the DB structure in my blog. So my blog address, www.scovirendra.blogspot.com. You can find the information related to the DB structure. Okay. Thanks. That's it for today.